What's up, everyone? You're listening to the RAS Project. My name is Ivan Temokov, and I'm your host. On this podcast, we discuss entrepreneurship, personal development, family, tech, and marketing. Why in the fuck should you listen to this podcast? This podcast is for those of you who are looking for life-changing advice and ways to thrive digitally with your business. As always, all content is 100% real, raw, and unfiltered. As a quick reminder, this podcast airs every Monday and Friday, so you get 2 episodes every week. And you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else podcasts are streamed. You can watch it in video on Facebook Watch and my YouTube channel as well. Woo! 50 episodes of the RAS Project. So it's actually, and before we dive into what I want to talk about today in the podcast, this is actually 50 episodes of the RAS Project. So this is actually 50 episodes just of the RAS Project. The episodes, that means I must be doing something right. Now, I want to talk about insecurities on this episode of the podcast, but before I jump into that, there's actually a very interesting observation that I made when I started this episode a little bit ago, and that is the fact that I talk really, really fast. And I actually caught myself because I was on a Zoom conference call before recording this episode, and they were asking me a little bit about me and what I do, and I just suddenly just took off like a racehorse. I was just rambling and rambling and rambling and rambling, and what I've come to realize is that, there's a lot of people out there who struggle to keep up, and being a fast talker is not really a good thing because a lot of people struggle to keep up with your thoughts. And so here's me making an attempt to actually pronounce things a little bit slower to make sure that I can enunciate everything and to make sure that everyone catches a clear thought in the way that I'm expressing it. So 50 episodes of this podcast. I mean, this is definitely a milestone. Honestly, the more I thought about it, I wanted to do something special, but I couldn't come up with anything. So maybe that's a failure on me, and I want to apologize. Now, let's talk about the meat and potatoes of this episode, and that is insecurities. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand that your insecurities are killing you more than you can realize. They're killing opportunities that you could be harnessing. It's killing potential that you probably have. And you probably might not think that you have. And the reason I'm telling you this is that in my younger days, I was probably one of the most insecure people you would have ever met. And it's been a polar change, a 360 since my 20s, considering I just turned 40 years old in January of this year. Funny tidbit. On a recent Zoom conference call that I was on, someone called me young. You're still a kid. Okay. Please, you have to understand, you need to stop worrying about your weaknesses. You see, what most people do, they worry about the things that they suck at, what they're not good at, because the society that we live in actually will sort of ingrain that in your head because society is looking for your flaws. The vast majority of the world that we live in actually looks for your flaws. It's because we as a society have become so scared and developed so many insecurities. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Nowadays, if you were to run across someone who was a genuine person, someone who's nice, someone who's polite, someone just has a goodwill, that wants to impact the world in a positive way, most people will be like, who the fuck is that? Why? Because it's hard to believe that there's good people in the world, but instead looking for people's weaknesses is a much better approach, right? That's fucking bullshit. And that's why I need you to understand that you need to stop worrying about your weaknesses, because that's what most people do, and focus on the things that you are good at. Focus on what are your strengths? What do you bring to the table that others can benefit from? Or how can you impact the world in a positive way? What do you have to contribute? What do you have to give? And everyone has something to give, believe it or not. It was really interesting. A conference call that I was on recently was talking about being relational versus transactional. You see, most people think in a transactional state of mind as opposed to relational in terms of how you relate to other people, because the more you relate to other people, the higher your chances are to create relationships. The more relationships you create, the more people you can help. That is literally the essence of business also. But a lot of people don't think about it that way, because they think in a transactional way where they're just thinking about money. They're just thinking about how much business can they bring in. Okay, so that was a little bit of a tangent there. Focus on your strengths. Like I said, again, without sounding like a broken megaphone, what are you really good at? What do you do better than everyone else? Stop worrying about what you suck at, what your shortcomings are, because in the reality of things, we all have shortcomings. I don't care who you are. I'm here to tell you that we all have shortcomings. We are not perfect. There is no perfect human being out there. You're not the only one who's insecure about things. And you need to stop thinking that way, because it's prohibiting you from taking your life, your business to the next level, because you keep having insecurities in your mind. So it's creating limitations on your mind, which is translating to everything that your body does also. And I'll give you a prime example. I've been insecure about my health, my nutrition for a vast majority of my life. Those two things have probably been the two biggest battles that I've had to fight with myself. Because as an Eastern European, I grew up on 5-course meals. My parents, I don't think they've ever exercised a day in their life. So can you imagine the kind of role modeling that took place? Of course, I embraced that. So I thought it was okay to eat 20 times per day, to eat all kinds of sugars and whatnot. And that has been the biggest battle for me. And I used to feel insecure because I was insecure here. And when I implanted more security in my mind, by the way, are you noticing my stylish haircut? Meaning I haven't gotten a haircut in a couple weeks now, and it's probably going to be another month before I actually get a haircut. But the point I'm trying to make is that I was insecure in my mind. Therefore, I didn't take my nutrition seriously. I didn't take my health seriously. And I've made some leaps because I've implanted more security in my mind. I've become more confident and realized that, you know what? I'm not the only person who's insecure about health and nutrition, but I am one of the only few people who is actually being actionable about changing that state of things. That's the difference right there. And that's why you need to focus on your strengths and what you're really good at. Just keep doing, keep grinding, keep putting in the work. I had a conversation earlier today with someone. I'm going to call him my crazy friend, who actually inspired me to do a new social video. And I told him about one of my biggest challenges, and that is consistency, right? And So meaning that I'm a consistent individual, but I kind of go through these periods that, I'm consistent for a long period of time, and then I plateau. And then I have a period where I'm inconsistent, and then I jump back onto the bandwagon again, and I start being consistent again. Now, one of the biggest insecurities with that was me as a human being. And these are the imperfections. So to be consistent, like 100% consistent every single day for every day of your life is impossible. Not that, well, I should say that it's difficult, not impossible. It's difficult to do because it requires a lot of discipline, a lot of commitment, and a lot of focus. Now, a lot of people lack that. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. A lot of people are capable of displaying discipline and commitment. They're just unwilling to do it. So there's a drastic difference there. So the point I'm trying to make here is that, that has been a battle for me, as being insecure about my lack of consistency. And then I realized that I'm only a human being. And I need to stop punishing myself for the fact that I fall out. All I need to do is just keep working on my discipline, on my commitment, on my focus, and keep doing what I've been doing thus far. Now, that right there is a key component to what's going to make you more secure about yourself, to feel more secure, to feel more confident. So that's really what I wanted to talk about in this episode. Again, I want to emphasize on the fact that you are not the only person who feels insecure. But the reason why you're not making strides in your life, in your business, why you're allowing other people to dictate the course of your life in your business, is because you're allowing your insecurities to get the best of you. So you need to work on your confidence. You need to work on your assertiveness. You need to work on your persistence. You need to work on your resilience. And this takes a long time. This can take a lifetime. I'm a prime example of that, but it's not impossible. It is very possible. It's just that you have to make the commitment to yourself to do those things. And that's where a lot of people fail at. And that's why everything comes back full circle, because it's all consequential. Everything is consequential. One thing leads to another, and so on and so forth and so forth and so forth. So the one thing that I want you to work on is, the best piece of advice that I can give you is, in order to rid of your insecurities, is personal development, mindset, health, nutrition, fitness. If you can find a counterbalance in all of those things, your life, your business will forever change. Your insecurities will practically disappear. I'm telling you this firsthand because I've done all of those things. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention is that I've got some very influential guests coming up over the next few weeks on the podcast. I'm actually very excited to bring them on. I've kind of been on this pattern recently of doing a lot of these solo episodes, which, by the way, I enjoy, but I like to break things up to keep things diverse. So there's going to be some announcements on that. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, it would mean the world to me if you hopped on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and I casted a review. If you found value in this podcast, if perspective, if I've helped you make a change in your life or your business, I would greatly appreciate it if you shared a review again on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm not asking you to buy anything. I'm just asking you to be courteous and return a favor, especially if I have given you some value on this podcast, simply because other entrepreneurs are going to find value in this. That's kind of the point behind this entire podcast. I'm always looking for sponsors for this podcast. If you're interested in sponsoring the podcast in some form or fashion, please email me at ivan@razorsharpdigital.com, or you can also message me on Messenger, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn. And before we close things off, again, the RAS project airs every Monday and Friday. You get 2 episodes every week. I'm truly hoping that you guys are getting some value out of this. This is why I'm doing this. And thus far, I've had amazing feedback from a lot of people, and I'm hoping to continue this momentum. Please, please, please stay home, honor the quarantine that we're in. We will get through this. I want you to remain healthy. I want you to remain safe. You, your family, your friends, your loved ones. Until next time, never stop trying. Peace out.